welcome to Functional Flow. So for those of you who don't know, this is a combination of yoga and mobility, and I designed this to just help you get to discover your body and move better in whatever you're doing, whether you're an athlete or just hanging out around the house. And all of this is best effort. So there's no need for this class if we're all moving perfectly. So I don't expect all of these drills and all of these movements to come naturally to everyone. So do your best, have some fun, and hopefully you'll discover some new stuff about your body and how it works and what you need to work on. Today's focus is about hips. So before we get started, I just want to spend a minute just going over how the hip works and make sure we're all on the same page with that. So the hip itself is a ball and socket joint, meaning your femur, your thigh bone, connects to your hip bone in a socket. So the head of your femur, I'll pretend that's my fist, fits in a socket. So we see the movement of the hip mostly in how our legs move around. So first, one movement would be flexion, which is closing this angle, the front angle of the hip. And extension is opening up that angle. We also have abduction, which is moving your leg away from the center of your body, and adduction, which is bringing it back in. And then there is rotation. So you can think of rotation as the head of the femur rotating either way in the socket of the hip. And one way we can see this is by bringing our knee out in front. Internal rotation is, sorry, that was external rotation. Internal rotation is bringing our foot to the outside, and if you have your hand on your thigh, you can actually feel, you can see your hand moving towards the inside. So that's the way your femur is moving. And then external rotation is bringing your foot to the inside, and notice that my hand travels a little bit to the outside. So that's the way the femur is moving in that sense. So rotation is just how the femur is moving in a circle, rather. So with all of that being said, make your way to your back. And starting out in Supta Baddha Konasana. So bring your feet together and let your knees fall out to the side, and just gently lay back on your mat. Tuck your shoulder blades in underneath you, and just breathe here for a couple moments. This is just gently opening up the inside of your hip, your groin area. And relax here. And inhale, start to bring your left knee up and bring it towards your right. You can have your hands out to the side if you'd like. If you can stack your knees, go for it. If not, just come over to the right as far as you can for a gentle lumbar twist here. And then open your left leg back up and bring your right knee over to meet your left. So spinal twist in this direction. Try to keep both shoulder blades on the ground, and then you can open back up and bring your left knee across. And inhale to open, and exhale, closing your knees to one side. And just trade back and forth each side, moving through this a little bit faster. And then come on back through center. And this time you can send your legs long on your mat. And take a breath here. Inhale, bring your right knee up towards your chest. You don't have to hold on to it or anything, just bring it up as high as you can. And just moving through some rotations here. So bring your knee out to the side, and then extend your leg, sending your foot long, coming back to the inside, and bringing your knee up towards your hip. Out to the outside, extending, coming back in and up. And do maybe 5 of these on this side. Nice and slow, feeling your end ranges here. And then go ahead and switch sides. So left knee comes up, knee comes out, extending your hip and your leg, and coming back in and up. Out, extend, and in and up. So I don't know if you can hear it, but whenever I extend my left leg, there's a pop. If you have this, as long as it's not painful, you're okay. You should be okay. If it's painful, go ahead and back on out of it. And once you've done about 5 on this side, go ahead and come back through center. And make your way up to a seated position. And this time, straddle out your legs as wide as you can. First thing we'll do is just a gentle forward fold. So try to keep your toes pointed up towards the ceiling and gently walk your hands forward, keeping your back long, and take a breath at the farthest point you can reach. And then walk your hands back in. Gently walk your hands back out. Take a breath. And inhale, sit back up. So again, moving through maybe 5 of these, nice and easy. On your next one, come back up so that you're sitting tall on your mat. Feet stay where they are. So this time, we'll walk our hands towards the right, and I want to see some rotation through your left hip. So the way you'll see this is actually through your toes. So as you come over to the right, your left toes will start to face forward. So that means that there's rotation happening here. So walk your hands as far as you can towards the right. And gently come back through center and walk your hands towards the left. Again, getting into some rotation here. Right toes pointing forward. Inhale back through center and exhale to the right. We're moving back and forth through these on your breath. Inhale, bringing you back to center. Exhale, reaching out to either side. Maybe getting a little deeper. Maybe noticing what side is easier to do this on. Make your way back through center. And then come into tabletop. So tabletop is on all fours, hands under your shoulders, knees under your hips. Your toes can be tucked or untucked. So we're taking cat and cow here. However, we'll take them super, super slowly. So think about them segmentally And think about every vertebra as you pass through it. So starting with cat, we'll start at the hips. Exhale, tuck your hips under you, and slowly think about pushing up through your lower back, your mid-back, your shoulder blades, and last, tucking your chin. Inhale for cow, starting with your hips, tip your tailbone up towards the sky, sink your low back, mid-back, upper back, and last, coming up with your chin. Now going the opposite way, exhale for cat, tuck your chin first, puff up through your shoulders, mid-back, low back, and lastly, tucking your hips. And inhale for cow, starting with your chin, come up with your chin, sink your shoulders, upper back, mid-back, low back, and last, tailbone comes up towards the ceiling. Let's do that one more time. Exhale for cat, tuck your hips, and slowly think about every vertebra as you round your back. Lastly, tucking your chin. Inhale for cow, tip your tailbone, sink your low back, mid-back, upper back, and chin comes up last. Exhale for cat, tuck your chin, puff up through your shoulders, mid-back, upper back, tuck your hips. And inhale, cow, chin comes up, sink your upper back, mid-back, lower back, and tailbone reaches towards the ceiling. Nice work. Now moving on to some hip cars, our controlled articular rotations. So first we'll start on the right and bring your right knee up towards your chest. So we're flexing here. And then bring your knee straight out to the side. So abduction here. And then extend behind you. So knee goes out behind, extending through the hip. And then bring your knee, keeping it back towards the center. So you're basically drawing a box with your knee. So knee comes up to your chest, out to the side, back, still staying out, and back and in. Do 3 more on this side, up to the chest, out to the side, out and back and in. And then once you've done 3 going this way, we'll take it in reverse. So we'll start at the top. So start with bringing your knee up to your chest, but this time send it straight back, extending, out to the side, abduction, bringing it up to the outside front corner, and into the chest again. So back and in, back and out, up and out, up and in. And do 3 more on this side. Just working into every movement we can with the hip. And then once you're done with 3 of those, come back through center, shake it out if you need to. Your left glute might be turned on real hard right now. And then we'll switch sides. So left knee comes up to chest. Bring it to the outside. Send it to the back. And then bring it in. So up and in. Up and out. Out and back, back and in, up and in, out, up and out, back and out, back and in. once you get back to the top, send it the other way. So back, straight back, out and back, out and up and in. Back, out and back, out in front, up and in. And 3 more on this side. And again, shake it out whenever you need to. This is not easy. And once you are done, come back to tabletop. Awesome work. So from tabletop, I'm just changing my orientation so you can see where I'm going. We're moving into gate pose. So inhale, lift your right leg and bring it out to the side. And go ahead and land your foot down. And inhale, come up through your torso. So you're standing on your left knee and right foot. And from here, inhale, bring your arms out by your sides. And exhale to gate pose. That's just opening up the side body a bit, obliques. And take a couple breaths here. And exhale, bring your hands down to the mat in front of you. So just gently opening up here. Sit your butt back towards your left heel. And then shift forward. You can shift your shoulders over your wrists if you want a little more of a wrist stretch. And then sit back and come forward. Just making this a dynamic movement here, opening up your inner hip, groin area. On your next one, pause at the top. So with your shoulders over your wrists. Inhale, lift your right hand up. And exhale, thread the needle. So right hand comes under your left. And you can extend your left arm a bit if that feels better. And you can stay elevated, or if you're feeling flexy, you can come all the way down to the ground, your temple to the floor. So this is getting deeper into the hip, keeping our leg in this position. And it's also getting us a little bit of shoulder stretch and opening up our mid-back just a little. Inhale, if you extended your left arm, bring it back and bring your right hand up. And then setting up for half camel. So again, I'm going to change my orientation. And so coming back through center. So bring your right hand to the small of your back. And think about squeezing your glutes to press your hips forward. And as you do that, gently start leaning back, left hand reaching towards your left heel. So if your toes are tucked, that gives you, makes your heel a little closer to reach to. And as you feel comfortable, squeezing your glutes, pressing your hips forward, and leaning back. Maybe you bring your right hand overhead. Whatever feels comfortable to you. And exhale. Start to come back the way you came. And come back through to tabletop. So hands land and bringing your right leg back underneath you. So switching sides. This time left leg extends out to the side. And inhale, sitting up. So now you're standing on your right knee and your left foot. Arms out by your sides. And exhale, to gate pose. Opening up your right obliques. And breathe here. Inhale, come back up through center and bring your hands to the floor in front of you. So again, just moving through these gentle forward and back. Sit back towards your heel and then come forward over, shoulders over wrists. Sitting back towards your heel and moving forward. So just gently going between these two. Keep breathing. And on your next rep, stay at the front, so shoulders over hands. Inhale, left arm lifts up, and exhale to thread the needle. So again, option, you can stay elevated, you can extend your right arm, or you can come all the way down. Whatever's in your practice or available to you. Just breathing wherever you are. Start to bring your right hand back if you extended it. Inhale, left arm reaches up. And setting up for half camel on this side. So standing up on your knee, left hand comes to the small of your back for support. Squeeze your glutes, press your hips forward. And as you feel comfortable leaning back or reaching your right hand towards your right heel. And puffing your chest up and open. If it feels okay, you can bring your left hand up and over. And be gentle with your head. Sometimes laying it back can be super intense. So only go as far as you're comfortable. And exhale. Come back up and back through tabletop. So this time, go ahead and take a seat and bring your feet out in front of you like you're about to start, like the crab walk, like we did when you were a kid in gym maybe. But feet outside of your hips, toes pointing forward, maybe a little to the outside. You can lean back on your hands, keeping your hands behind you, and then let your knees fall to the left. So you're hopefully going to come into a 90-ish degree angle in both knees. So once you're here, I'm just going to scoot back, sit up with your torso. You can bring your hands wherever feels comfortable to you. And just moving through some stretching here. So turn towards your front leg and lean forward. So your front leg or your front femur is in external rotation. So your hip is externally rotated here. And this should feel very similar to pigeon pose because this is basically the leg placement for pigeon pose. So take a breath here. Feel free to go as low as you like. And inhale, come back up through center. So now turn towards your back leg. So while this hip is externally rotated, this hip is can't lean a whole lot forward here, and that's expected. But it's a whole different experience to stretch forward over an internally rotated hip. So lean forward as much as you can without, pain, and hold here for a moment. Like I can get like an inch, and then come back up through center, turn forward, and lean forward over your externally rotated front leg. Inhale, come back up, switch it out, and lean over your back leg. Inhale brings you up, exhale, leaning over. And just switch gently back and forth between these two. A few more breaths. Maybe you'll notice it getting easier, maybe not. Let's do one more. And then for this next part, there are a couple options here. So, and I should have mentioned this earlier. If you're getting any pain in your knee, in your back leg, feel free to elevate your butt. So sit on a block, some books, anything else that'll lessen the intensity of the angle of your hip and would help with relieving some knee pain here. So that is always an option if you're feeling that. So for this next part, a few different options. Option one is bringing your hands behind you and simply bring your knees from side to side, just working into both hips. I find this to be a really good warm-up before I lift. I usually add these in. Option two is coming back to the left and seeing if you can tease your right foot off the ground. So you might cramp up. It's going to be a lot of work right here in your glutes. But this is adding that rotation there. And then last option is, if this is going well, coming into a modified lotus from here. So, lift your foot off the ground, then extend your leg out, come forward, and then cross your right ankle over your left thigh. If you need to use your hand to help a little bit at that point, that's totally fine. And then you have to go back. So extend your leg out to the front, swing it back through the side, and land it back down. So what's going on here is internal rotation, making that even more internally rotated, lifting up and extending, extension and abduction, bringing it back through, so adduction still extended, and then crossing back through. So this is external rotation at the top. So wherever you are, play around with this for a couple more moments. And then we'll switch sides. Whatever you're on, go ahead and finish that. Maybe swing your knees from side to side here just to loosen everything up. It's a lot of work. And then let your knees fall to the right. So again, think 90-degree angles in your knees here. And then moving into the same leaning, for lack of better words, that we were doing on the other side. So torso twists towards your front leg and leaning down. Feel free to take a moment here. Breathe. towards your back leg and lean as far as you can. Inhale up and exhale to the front. Inhale up and exhale to the back. And again, just switching out here, nice and easy. And on your next rep, stay tall. And again, same options here. You can bring your hands behind you and simply just open or bring your knees side to side. And then second option being working on teasing your left foot up. This is my bad side, so this is harder for me on this side. And then third option being coming into locust or modified locust. So foot comes up, extending out, circling front, and then angle over right thigh, and then extending, swinging back through. So wherever you are, play around with this for a few breaths. Maybe notice what's hard, what's easy, what's different from side to side. Let's do one more here. And then come on back through tabletop. So tuck your toes if they're not already tucked. And exhale, push back to downward facing dog. So for here, hips rise up towards the ceiling. Maybe you pedal out your feet here, just reaching one heel at a time towards the mat. Check in with your hands. Press into all four corners of both palms. Breathe here. And start to come to stillness. Inhale, bend your knees, look towards the front. And exhale, travel forward to meet your hands for ragdoll. So for ragdoll, feet stay under your hips. Give yourself a nice big bend in your knees, and then let your torso drape forward. Reach for opposite elbows with your hands. And then let go of all tension in your neck, shoulders. Maybe you sway side to side. Wherever you are, just breathing here. And inhale. Start to bring your hands to the mat. Walk your feet together. Always feel free to keep a bend in your knees here. Inhale, halfway lift. Flattening your back. Hands come to shins or thighs. Think about drawing your shoulder blades together. If you lift, think about like setting up for a deadlift. You want your back engaged. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, slowly start to rise, coming up to stand. So feel free to shake it out here. I'm just going to talk about one more part, or one more thing about the hip, and that is hinging. So if you're a CrossFitter or a lifter, you've probably heard your coaches talk about hinging at your hip. Even if you've been to my yoga classes, especially in forward folds, I will say hinge at your hips. But what does that really mean? So hinging is not a new movement, so it is just simply flexion of the hip. However, it does specifically relate to bending forward. So I'm going to grab my broomstick here. But basically, when people naturally bend over without thinking, they use a lot of their back. So notice that my back is arched, which means I'm flexing through my spine, and I'm not just using my hips. Hinging is the act of just using your hips to bend. So the difference between that and hinging is I'm going to set my back, shoulders down, just nice and engaged. Hips start the movement, so hips go back, and I'm basically squeezing my glutes and pressing through that squeeze. And this is about as far as I can get. So notice the difference that my back is flat instead of curved. So this is a hinged position. Another way to think about it, or to see it better, is if you have a broomstick or PVC pipe or something like this, you can do this at home. But if you line up the broomstick so that it's touching mid-back between your shoulder blades and your butt, if you just bend over without hinging, there's a lot of space. It's not touching my butt, it's just pointing out straight up towards the ceiling. If I'm hinging correctly, notice that the broomstick is still touching my butt and my shoulder blades. So my back is staying flat. In relation to lifting, I mean, this is how you would want to set up for a deadlift or a clean pull or snatch for that matter. So you're keeping your back nice and flat, staying higher for a deadlift or lower for a clean. In relation to yoga, you can think about this as forward fold. So for forward fold, if you're hinging first, you're starting with your hips going back. And then once you get to the point where you can't reach any lower, then you can start using your back, flexing your back to come down and in. So notice how close my chest is to my thighs, rather than if I just fold forward, my chest is pretty far away. So play around with that a little bit. If you have something like a broomstick, feel free to grab it. But hinging, butt goes back, and then pushing your butt back as you keep your back straight. And if you want to go into forward fold, letting your back flex and bringing your hands to the ground. So another way to kind of get into this, maybe even a little bit better, is with single leg Romanian deadlifts. So, or RDLs as I will reference them from here on out. So, a couple ways you can do this. If you start on your right side, your left toes come behind you, and you can keep your toes down for balance. And from here, think about hinging forward. So your knee should be soft, and by soft I mean just not locked, and bending forward as much as you can without losing the straightness in your back, and then coming back up. So these are also a great glute workout. You'll feel your right glute and hamstrings firing up. And if this is going well, you can take your foot off the floor. What I usually do is start with my knees together and foot behind me, and as I hinge over, reaching back. So again, trying to keep your back nice and flat. Do maybe 10 of those on your right side, and then gonna switch to the left. Again, starting with keeping your toes on the ground, pushing through your left hip, keeping your back engaged, all toes on the ground on your front foot, which is hard for me on this side. And then if you want to make it more intense, you can bring your back foot up and do it that way. So take your time here. I'm gonna keep moving forward just for time's sake, so feel free to pause this if you're still going. Otherwise, moving forward. So to just talk a little bit more about hip rotation. I'm going to take this from mountain pose. So, standing up tall, try not to fall down. Bring your right knee up in front of you so that it's even with your hip. And just kind of what I talked about in the beginning about the internal and external rotation. I find this easiest if you put your hand on your thigh and just play around with some external and internal rotation. So internal is bringing your foot out to the outside, which seems backwards, but you'll notice, you'll feel it, and you'll notice that your hand kind of comes to the inside as you do this. So that's the way your femur is rotating. External rotation is bringing your your foot to the inside, and try to keep your knee in about the same place as you do this. So you're rotating your femur and not swinging out to the side or anything weird with your leg. And once you've done a few of these, we'll take this into the yoga pose of tree. So first, start by, you can bring your hands to heart center if you'd like. Internal rotation, external rotation, and then trying to keep the external rotation, bring your foot to your inner thigh, shin, or kickstand. Try to avoid your knee on this, but otherwise your leg is pretty much fair game. I am totally not balanced today. And then come back here, internal rotation, external rotation, and tree. Come back to the front, internal, external, tree. So do 5 or so of those on this side, shake it out, and then switch on over to the left. Left knee comes up in line with your hip, and again, playing around with internal and external rotation. Internal rotation, foot to the outside, external rotation, foot to the inside. And feel your muscles moving as you do this. Try to keep your knee in the still. And then moving into tree. So internally rotate, externally rotate, and coming into tree. Again, foot can come anywhere on your leg or kickstand. Just try to avoid putting your foot on your knee. And again, moving through maybe 5 of these on this side. You can always use your hand to help place your foot. And once you've done 5 of these, go ahead and shake it out and come on down to your mat and all the way down to your back, bringing your knees up towards your chest. You can give yourself a hug or simply just hold onto your shins and just rock side to side here. You've done a lot of work and hopefully discovered some new things about yourself. And on your next exhale, let your knees fall to the right. Your arms can come out by your sides. Try to keep both shoulder blades on the ground. through lumbar spine. Inhale, come back through center, and exhale, let your knees fall to the left. Again, try to keep both shoulders on the ground, gazing over to the right. And breathe here. Inhale, come back through center. Exhale for happy baby. So you can reach for your feet or your hamstrings and draw the soles of your feet up towards the ceiling. And you can enjoy the stillness here. If you want to get a little deeper into this, try to keep your tailbone on the ground. You'll start to feel that working. If you want to rock side to side, you can. Or just hang out here and breathe. And then gently let go of your feet, cross your ankles, and roll up to a seated position. So that is the end of functional flow. So I would love to hear your feedback on this, how you feel, what you learned, if you learned. So let me know. My social media accounts are in the description below. So please comment here, hit me up. And functional flow will be back for a couple classes in December, so keep an eye out for some pop-ups. And then we will be officially launching functional flow as a full or regular class come January. So keep an eye out for all of that. And also feel free to sign up for my newsletter if you want to keep up with any updates and schedule. So thank you so much for coming, and hope to see you on the mat soon.